Hello, everybody, and welcome into another season preview show here on the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. And we are up to the Minnesota Wild, and I've got Mariah Stark here. Has been covering the Wild for as long as I can remember on the site here, and now she's credentialed with the team going into this season. So that's long time coming. So Mariah, how's it going?
Well, thank you for that. And I'm terrified at the same time. But this off season has blown by and not blown by at the same time. But I'm excited for it to get started, that's for sure.
Yes, like we were talking off before we started recording how much the off seasons just drags on, and it's hard to get going, and we're finally getting going here. So, all right, well, let's talk about the Minnesota Wild, and we'll start with their forward group because I mean, not much changes. Actually, I'm looking at it, not really any changes when you're looking at their main group of forwards going into the season. So, what do you think about the group? Is it good enough to return to the playoffs? Obviously, they have a new head coach for a full season to start now, so he'll get his training camp in. He'll get all that systems going. What do you think about the forwards going to this season?
So I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing that they didn't change. I love our grouping. I really do. I'm disappointed. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the trade deadline last year, and I miss Duhaime and Dewar.
Mhm.
Those two were like one of the best fourth line combinations in my opinion, but obviously with the Wild's cap situation, something had to go, and those two did. But they did add I don't know if I'm gonna say his name right, but Yaka yeah Trennan. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say his last name, Trennan. I don't know how to say his first name. I'm sorry. And I'm excited about his he's got size and I've wa- I'm not super familiar with him, but I started watching some of his highlight reels and I like his defensive game. He's not a super big point producer, but the Wild needs size. Polino's getting older. As much as I love Moose, he's getting older, and he was really the only size they had outside of Duhaime and honestly Dewar, even though he was small. So they need someone to kind of say, back off, don't
Mhm.
mess with our players, and I I'm excited to see what he can bring.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's Yakov Trenin. I may be
Okay.
saying it wrong too, but I he was really good for the Avalanche at the end of the season there once he came over from the Predators. It was really good with the Predators too. So I think he could be a really good bottom six guy. But yeah, that's all that really have changed. Although, having a full season of Kuznetsov, who had a really good stint when he came over from the KHL. And Kaprizov, we all know what he's going to bring. He's going to score goals, and that's what he does. Marco Rossi had a great sophomore season, or
Yes.
was that his
Yes.
rookie season? It
It
was
well,
kind of
it's it was technically his rookie season because the first season he didn't hit that threshold.
right,
It
right.
felt like it was his second season.
It is his rookie season, his full season, first season, and he was really
Yeah.
good. So I mean, he's really kind of taken that mantle we've talked about in the past of him needing to be that first line center. I think he has now completely changed into that type of guy that could be that. And I'm really happy for him because of all the
Yeah.
stuff he's had to deal with injury wise. So that's great. And then Eriksson Ek, of course, we all know how dependable he is. I think this group is still pretty good on the forward
Yeah.
side. I mean, yes, like you said, maybe it's a bad thing they didn't change anything, but I don't know. I think they're still pretty good group.
I love their core. I do. It's just after last season, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
but they did have a ton of injuries, so it's not fair to completely blame them and getting a new coach. Like I
Yeah.
talked about this. I was on a podcast this weekend and we kind of talked about how the when a new coach comes in, there's usually a kind of a win streak that follows because it's like, okay, the coach went, who could
Mhm.
else go if we don't kick it into gear? And I mean, it was great. And I really liked how Hines kind of took control. He didn't force his game onto
Mhm.
like his style. He kind of sat back, watched what they did, saw the combinations, got to know the players, and then started feeling comfortable with what he wanted to do. And I loved Evason. And you know this, I
Yeah.
loved him. And I was sad to see him go, but sometimes you just got to move on. And like I've talked to a few people, he's a really good coach for like the younger
Mm.
groups of kids or the up and coming, where he can get them to the place where they are. Where the Wild, it's a little bit, yeah, they have a ton of young guys, but they also have a big veteran core who didn't necessarily respond to Evason's style as well. So with Hines, he's able to kind of, he makes changes, and
Yeah.
when he gets fed up, it's like, okay, you're doing this, even if it's totally horrible, we're going to try it. That way we can get rid of it. And he wasn't afraid to make those moves. And I
Mm.
liked that. And the fact that he took the time to get to know the players and kind of let them set the tone really kind of showed that, he understands the player side too, where it's like, well, we're on the ice, you're not, kind of thing. So
Mm.
it was, I think once he's, like you said, he's got the full off season to kind of create the team the way he wanted. I mean,
Mm.
they let Darby Hendrickson go. Another hit to my heart as a Minnesotan, but I understood him having to leave, and I'm excited to see where he is. I believe he went to Nashville with Brunette.
Yeah.
So they're kind of creating their own little Minnesota Wild regime in Nashville. But I'm excited to see Jack Capano.
Capuano, yeah.
I'm horrible with names. But I'm excited to see what he can bring too. They've added little pieces here and there to not shake the whole roster, but enough to
Mm.
make it where they're just adjustments they needed to make. And I definitely think they can make it to the postseason as long as they avoid injuries and stay consistent with their play.
Yeah. I think that's the key thing. And I think the biggest thing is that full training camp off season that that Hines had, and he can set his system in motion right away, right from the beginning of the season, rather than having to do it in season, which is really tough to do when you're trying to win games and you're already behind the eight ball. You've got to win. It's really tough. So I think it's a big thing having that training camp, because I know how it did with Tocchet here in Vancouver. He had his full training camp after having such a good end of the season. So yeah, I think it could happen the same way because he's got a good group to work
Oh,
with
great.
forward wise, and not every team has Kaprizov to lean on, and that's huge. So there you go. All right, moving to the defense, which again didn't see many changes. Brock Faber is now leading the group. I mean, you're looking at Jared Spurgeon, who is, of course, leading the group too. I mean, but I think Faber's the next wave. What do you think about the defense? Is it good enough this season? Again, they didn't do anything to upgrade it or downgrade it because they didn't remove anyone. Is it good enough to be in the playoffs?
Again, injuries, but I love Brock Faber. He is him and Kaprizov are kind of like that. Like Kaprizov used to be way above everybody. Faber's right there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the unofficial official president of his fan club. So, but he watching him last year, obviously going against Connor Bedard for the Calder. I mean, I had some really optimistic hope that he was going to beat Bedard, but realistically, I knew it wasn't going to happen. Just
Yeah.
it's Bedard. Like it happens. But he was phenomenal, and just even when he got his first 6 games prior to that last season, it was amazing watching him just step into the playoffs like he was a seasoned veteran as a defenseman at
Mhm.
20 years old. Like,
Yeah.
who is this guy? And he just kept finding ways to step it up, and he had I think I had what was it 47 points
Yeah.
I think he had last season. It's like, what first full season defenseman as a rookie does that? And
Yeah.
he okay, I'm gonna go on a Faber rant here, but so Spurgeon gets injured, find out later, he'll be out for the full season. He needs hip and back surgery. Brodeen's been out for off and on all season, sometimes at the same time as Spurgeon. The rest of the defense was solid, but not good enough to be that top. So he took the top spot over other veteran players, and he was running the defensive core, the first power play, and the penalty kill. So sometimes all in one game, plus playing 30 plus minutes a game. This guy was like the Energizer Bunny and couldn't stop. And thankfully, the Wild kind of realized, okay, if we keep going at this rate, we're going to burn this poor kid out. So
Yeah.
they lessened his responsibilities a little bit and put it on some of the, like, Middleton is great. I love his personality. He's kind of up and down as a defenseman, but he is solid, like, defensively.
Mm.
Goligoski and Merrill, I'd rather not discuss. But that they're up and down. And Goligoski obviously is almost 40 years old, so he's getting towards the end of the career. I'm pretty sure the Wild did not re-sign him, so he's either off to another team or he's done. Merrill, on the other hand, I know has longer on his contract. I don't know how long. But, and I'm blanking on our other details. But yeah, I think they're really good, solid defensively. I mean, having Spurgeon and Brodin is one thing, but having Faber as well, plus Middleton, you've got a great top four. The final two, it's kind of up in the air. They do have some guys that could maybe crack the lineup, possibly, but it's kind of where they're at the point where it's like, well, do we keep them down or do we move them up?
Yeah.
And yeah, I love Faber.
Yeah, I've said it before too. I love Faber. I wanted the Canucks to acquire him from the Kings way back when, and then they traded him to the Wild, and I'm like, all right, I guess that dream's dead. But yeah, Faber's been. I mean, he's been phenomenal, like you said. He's been probably. I thought he deserved the Calder, but the thing is. Bedard. I mean, that's just how, unfortunately, it's just that's how it was going to be. If Bedard had a good season, he was going to win it, and he had a good season. So
rightfully so.
Yeah, and Faber deserved the votes he did get, and nomination. Which I mean, he had just had a phenomenal season. 47 points for a guy that I never really thought had that much offense in his game. I thought he was good defensive defenseman. He's going to get maybe 20, 30 points. But not closing in on 50. That's just really. I mean, he's now a better defenseman than I thought he was going to be.
You're gonna love my bold prediction at the end.
All right. Well, before we get there, let's talk about goaltending. Again, this is a same tandem repeating. Marc-Andre Fleury returning again. He doesn't want to retire, apparently. He is going to be backing up Gustavsson, who had not that good of a season from his first one. And then you've got Jesper Wallstedt still waiting in the wings there. He had his season debut, wasn't that good. That first game was horrible. But then he got really good. Didn't he get a shutout in his last start? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, he's rebounded from that. What do you think about this three-headed? Is it a three-headed monster this season, or is it going to be mostly Gustavsson, Fleury?
So, okay. This is a long one. I love Fleury. I really do. I don't think there's a person on this earth that doesn't like him. But I was on the side of, okay, it's time to retire and move on. The Wild need to move. And it's not so much that he's not a great player, because he is. I mean, being 40 and playing at the level he is, I would love to even have a fraction of that talent. But you got to make room for other guys.
Yeah.
However, I understand keeping him and the fact that he's a great person to learn from. And after Gustavsson last season, I can see why they kept him.
Yeah.
But then I also saw the trade rumors and assumed Gustavsson was going to be long gone at this point. And I love Gustavsson too, and I can't remember what article I read, but he did say he struggled a lot mentally off and on. That's what the big part of the game was. He just couldn't keep a consistent mindset. So this offseason, he's been really working hard. And I just read an article from the Russo, and I think Joe Smith might have helped on it, but about what this goalie situation is going to be, and that they're thinking Fleury can have 40 games. I'm just like, 40 for a 40-year-old. Okay.
Yeah.
It hasn't been done a lot, but it's been done. And I'm kind of nervous because Fleury, what was it, 2 seasons ago when we had Talbot still, was like, well, I would rather just play the second half of stuff, not all the time. Like, I like my rest days. And like I said, this is just complex. I don't know. Obviously I'm excited for Wallstedt, and I'm they're planning on giving him some games from what I've read.
Hmm.
They're gonna try this 3 goalie tandem, I guess. I really don't know what to expect. I guess Fleury is technically the starter, and then Gustavsson and Wallstedt are gonna kind of. If Gustavsson bounces back, I think it flips and Fleury kind
Yeah.
of be backup. But it's just like where, and the other thing is the cap space.
Yeah.
When they bring Wallstedt up, they're gonna have 500,000 in cap. We were playing it tight before, but and I like all 3 of them when they're on. They're fantastic. Each one individually is great. And obviously Wallstedt only had a handful of games, and his first game, the Dallas game, that was just unfair.
Yeah. Yeah.
His team did not show up. They're just like, oh, new goalie, we're gonna just see what he can do. And just no defense, nothing. That was just, I felt so bad for him in that game. I'm like, you guys really just don't want him to play for you, do you? But then they gave him some other times, and he's a phenomenal. And once he got comfortable and seeing what the defense, like how their systems work and everything, he's gonna fit right in. I just don't. I'm not comfortable with Fleury in 40 games. Anyway, I'm curious to see what happens. I really am. And I mean, I guess they can always trade Gustavsson later if they really want to, but that leaves no one. I mean, they need another goalie with Wallstedt. And I know they drafted somebody, but we know the draft, it's typically a ways until they actually play. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what to think. I thought I saw, though, that after this season, Fleury is retiring. I think this is his farewell hurrah. And the Wild, I love them, but do not re-sign after this.
Yeah.
Unless he takes them all the way to the cup, we're done.
Yeah. I love Fleury too. I think he's one of those guys that he seems to be like, he doesn't want to retire, but he's got to retire eventually. But
I understand wanting to play, but at some point your body's just got to be like, done.
Yeah. So we'll see. I want to see Wallstedt as the starter of this team eventually, and he probably will be. Spoiler alert, he's now the number 2 prospect on my goaltending prospect list, rankings wise. He has usurped Wolf because I'm kind of iffy on Wolf now after his season last year. But again, the team in front of him wasn't that good. But Wallstedt, I think, I'm just thinking he just has a bit more higher upside now. And I want to see him as a full-time, but again, I mean, maybe he's not ready to be that yet. And he's only been in the AHL, 2 seasons now? So.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So really, it's maybe a little too soon, but he has a lot of upside. I'm really excited to see him in the future.
He's got a great personality too. Listening to his interviews, he's just so calm, level-headed, and just confident.
I guess I shouldn't say spoiler alert because it's already out by the time people are going to be watching this. It'll be out on the site, so it won't be. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of juggle those 3 goaltenders this year. All right, let's talk about the division because this division is really tough. And you're adding Nashville Predators who've added Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault to that team. And they were pretty good before. So the Wild obviously did make the playoffs. Where are they in this division right now? Because like I say, there's so many good teams that are just they may have to fight for a wild card spot if they're going to be making the playoffs.
That's what we talked about this weekend. We're on the podcast. We're like, well, they've got the Avalanche, the Stars, the Jets, and the Predators. They're kind of probably around the same level as the Blues.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's typical. That's what it's been for the last few years outside of the Predators, I guess. But it always seems like it comes down to the Blues.
Yeah.
Always something with the Blues or the Stars. But I mean, I personally think they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. Optimistic me is like, oh, they'll make it in. Realistic, yeah, it's going to be tough because, I mean, you've got all the teams that made it in the postseason last year. And granted, some of them didn't do the greatest, but I mean, Avalanche won the Cup 2 seasons ago?
Yeah.
3. No, right?
Will be 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, it was the Golden Knights and Florida.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, it seems like it's been
Time's
years.
just flying.
But the team I'm kind of curious about is the Jets. Like, I'm not quite sure because the Wild always play them really hard and
Mhm.
really physical. They have a vendetta against Kaprizov. Just gonna say they've injured him twice, but it's gonna be a battle, and they have to be ready for that, and they have to win the games they have to win. They can't just be, oh, we're gonna just slough off against this team. It's got to be every single game has to be a battle if they want to make it in.
Yeah. 100%. And that's I think every division really. You're looking at all these divisions, they all are going to be tough. I mean, the playoffs, I mean, there's going to be some new teams in the playoffs this year again. And some aren't going to make it that made it last season. So it is going to be an interesting one to watch, that's for sure. All right, let's get to our quick fire round. These are just quick 1 or 2 sentence answers, so we can go through this pretty quick here. First, what's the biggest storyline or question mark going into this season for the Wild?
Goaltending.
Yeah.
I think that's all I could say is goaltending. I was gonna say
We
their
went through we already went through that. Yeah.
I was gonna say their consistency, but I mean that's kind of every team.
Yeah.
But
Goaltending and refer to the conversation we just had about the
yeah,
goaltending,
yes.
why that is. All right. 1 or 2 breakout stars.
I want to say Faber, but he kind of already
He
did
already
that.
broke out. Yeah.
Uh,
What more can he do? 60 points? 50 points?
just wait. I think Liam Olgren.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I was gonna say Rossi, who's Nadine, but I mean, I guess I could say who's Nadine off because he technically hasn't. I mean, he played, but he hasn't shown a lot of anything. So those two, I guess I would say.
Yeah, those are 2 good ones there for sure. All right, someone that needs to bounce back. There's probably a few candidates on this one.
I've got 2, Johansson and Gustavsson,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
all.
Johansson was okay. I mean, I he was put in a lot of situations. I think he was maybe had to do too much, maybe.
He should have been lower in the lineup if he was
Yeah,
lower. He
yeah,
would have been fine.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see where he kind of fits in this year. All right, X factor this season. This could be a player or it could be a situation.
I'm gonna say Brock Faber.
Definitely an X factor. That's for sure. He was an X factor last season. I think
He's
he could
just
be
gonna
that
keep
again.
doing it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk some rookies, prospects. I mean, there are actually some candidates here. Rookie or prospect that could surprise, make the team out of training camp.
I'm gonna say Riley Height.
I like that one. I think he could definitely. Again, a guy that the Wild got way too late. They shouldn't have got him there. He should have been drafted way sooner. But they've gotten a few of those guys lately. All right, prospects that everyone should be watching. Outside of it, someone that could make the team.
Steve Bouillon. I love. Oh my gosh, you know this.
Yes.
I loved him. I was watching the draft at work. I was at my work and we had it on the TV and I'm like, what are the Wild doing? Why are they trading and why has nobody picked Bouillon yet? I watched him play in person at the NCHC tournament and I was just blown away. And then all of a sudden they announced it and I looked at my coworker. I'm like, they just said Bouillon, didn't they? And he's like, yes. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I am so for this. I am so excited. This is probably the most I've been excited since Kaprizov was drafted.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how the Wild got him, where they got him.
And I'm okay with that.
It's great. It's really great. Yeah. I'm really happy. I think he's gonna end up like looking at a future top pairing of Faber and Bouillon, because that's a really good pairing. That's gonna be fun to watch. All right, this wasn't probably an easy one, but who leads the team in scoring?
Gee, I wonder. There's so many options. Kaprizov.
Yeah. Period. And defense. This is probably an easy one too.
Brock Faber.
Yeah. I see. I second that too. All right, now we'll get to your bold prediction, hot take for this season.
I have 2 and they both involve the players I just mentioned. I have Kaprizov getting 60 goals, hitting 120 or more points. And Faber I have getting 20 goals and 60 points. Faber's maybe isn't quite as bold, but that's still a lot for a defenseman.
The 20 goals is the bold part, I think. That's a big one. I don't see him as much of a goal scorer. So yeah, 20 goals would be pretty crazy. Although Quinn Hughes all of a sudden turns into a goal scorer now. I don't know. I didn't think he would be able to get almost 20 goals. So passes too much. These guys, they're passing. gotta shoot, get some goals. That's how you get the Norris Trophy. That's how Hughes did. So gotta score. All right. Well, thanks, Mariah, for coming on, talking the Minnesota Wild, because again, another interesting season. They've got their exciting players. They could have a team that could make the playoffs. They're not a bad team. They got good players in every position. So we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. It's all injuries. If injuries turn their head again, you don't know. And that's what happened last season. So we'll just have to wait, and hopefully everything goes right and the Wild have a good season. But make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com. We got the Substack. We got all that fun stuff over there. Make sure you're checking out all throughout the season and Mariah's work, as she's going to be there covering the team for the first time. So you're going to have some more inside looks. So make sure you're checking out everything there. But until our next preview, we'll see you next time.